Hey guys, welcome to the video. So today we are going to be talking all about my pregnancy journey. So whether you are a subscriber or you are just clicking on this video for the first time, I realized I am now 29 weeks into my pregnancy, so we don't have too much time left before baby gets here. But if you're like me and maybe you just found out you're pregnant or this is your first pregnancy and you're like, literally, what do I do next? Like, what happens next? What do I need to know? What can I expect? That was me just a couple months ago. So I really just wanted to share some of the learnings and insights I've had so far and how I am personally preparing for baby to get here. So I'm going to split this into two parts. In part one, I'm going to share kind of how I've navigated this pregnancy, what I've learned, what resources have been incredibly helpful for me just to educate myself on my first pregnancy and labor and everything like that. And then in part two, I'm going to show you all of my essentials. So all of the items and products that literally I cannot live without. So there's part one and part two. To dive in here first, like I mentioned, I am now 29 weeks into my pregnancy, so I am in my third trimester. I am due August 23rd with my son, which is still so surreal. This entire thing is going so fast. It's absolutely crazy. But I wanted to share first and foremost what has helped me prepare. Because again, if you're clicking on this and you are very early in your pregnancy and you're like, where do I even begin? This is how I personally started. And I will say I have had a very, very good pregnancy. I've been very blessed. I did not deal with a lot of morning sickness or anything like that. I've been able to stay active and, there's been good days and bad days, but overall been very blessed with my pregnancy. I also have had a really good mindset, and I will say going into labor in just a couple months, I feel very prepared and at ease and, have not dealt with too much stress. And it's because of these things that have helped me have that mindset. So I want to dive in with education and where to start. So everybody is different. I have to say that off the bat. Every pregnancy is different. Definitely consult with your doctors, friends, family, whoever you trust. For me personally, educating myself and learning as much as possible has helped me have a peaceful mindset. I could not imagine going into labor and having a baby, not having read anything or looked at anything or learned about being pregnant. So it's really, really helped me personally prepare. So I started pretty early, I would say. I found out I was pregnant in December, and obviously in those first few weeks was, just focused on being healthy and resting and dealing with all of the symptoms that come with the first trimester. But I did lean on friends and family, or, I had a best friend who was pregnant at the same time as well, who is a fertility coach. So shout out Vicky Viola. She goes by Your Period Coach on Instagram. She is an incredible resource, and it was amazing to have her to lean on. And then obviously my mom and my partner as well were great to lean on. Some apps I would recommend downloading. The Bump app has been a lifesaver. I downloaded that very early on. You can track where you're at in your pregnancy. Obviously, once you go have your first doctor's appointment around 8 weeks, it's helpful to be able to just read every single week what's changing in your body, what to expect. They have great video tutorials and show you how baby is growing every day. So the Bump, it's a website and it's an app. I would recommend downloading that. Then there's the FEMM app, FEMM. I use that to track a lot of my symptoms in the beginning. So it was very, very helpful early on in the first and second trimester. I haven't been using it lately, but I tracked all of my symptoms in there. You can track when you're having intercourse, things like that, if you're trying to conceive right now. I also use the Clue app when we were trying to get pregnant. I had used that for years. I was tracking my period on that anyway, but then I changed it to the conception mode when we started trying. And then I was kind of able to pinpoint when we got pregnant from that, because once we started trying, I marked every single time that we had intercourse, and that literally allowed me to know when it happened, which it happened very fast for us. So the Bump and FEMM were great. And then I would say this one course that I took was an absolute game changer. So for me, I went on Instagram right away and I was like, let me look up some accounts, who should I be following? So I found a bunch of OBGYN accounts or different moms who obviously looked like credible sources. And I followed a couple different accounts. And again, I've asked my friends who have babies or are pregnant what accounts they like to follow as well. So I started kind of like, following people. Dr. Nicole Rankings is the person who I found, who I just connected with her energy. I really liked that it was a mix of like, she's an OBGYN, so a mix of kind of like more science and health and medical information, but she is also a little bit spiritual as well, which I am. So she kind of like was in between both worlds, and I really appreciated that from her. So for me personally, I wanted to go down the route of taking an online course. You can totally do classes online or in person through your hospital. I just found that my hospital, it was confusing like where to find links to even like go do classes, and I didn't necessarily want to go down a traditional route of like a Lamaze class or something like that. And some of my friends had just found people online that they liked. So Dr. Nicole Rankings, her birth preparation course is what I took. Worth every freaking penny, you guys. It was only $247 for the whole course. It's 6 modules. I just finished it yesterday. I have watched that slowly but surely over the last 7 months, and it was a game changer. It was so informational. I feel completely prepared through her freaking course. She also has a podcast as well, which I recommend. So I just had to throw that out there. If you want to take a course, worth every penny, the birth preparation course from her. So absolutely loved that. There's plenty of other courses out there as well, but that's the one I went with. So between doing that, and then I have a class coming up in person. I booked a private session to prepare me for labor. That's kind of what I decided to do. So I chose to do the one course for education, listen to podcasts, YouTube videos, TikTok, like all of that has been amazing. And then I'm reading the What to Expect When You're Expecting book. I literally didn't start that until a couple weeks ago. So I skipped to like the 6-month chapter, but that has been really helpful. So you might want to read that from the beginning. And then the other podcast I've listened to is the Mommy Labor Nurse podcast. Is fantastic. All about pregnancy and birth with Dr. Nicole Rankings, her podcast. And then the Birth Hour is a good one if you just want to hear like birthing stories. So those podcasts have been very informational. And then YouTube-wise, definitely go follow Bridget Taylor. Her videos are so freaking helpful. Absolutely love her. She has some courses as well. So I'm about to buy her breastfeeding course and her newborn course, because that's kind of like where I am in my pregnancy. So all of that education has helped me. That's what I've chosen to do. You can totally do in-person classes if you want to do hypnobirthing or Lamaze, like however you plan on having your baby. I'm planning on doing a medicated birth. I do want to use an epidural at some point if possible, but I do want to labor at home as long as possible. So I wanted to learn best practices and mindset tools and resources and different things I can do physically through movement to help me labor at home. And then I am going to go to a hospital and give birth, and I would like to get an epidural to help me with pain management. So that's everything I've done education-wise. Now I want to dive into each of my trimesters and how I've been kind of like slowly but surely preparing myself for birth. So in the first trimester, if that is where you are at and you are just starting out, for me, since this is my first baby, I really was just like Googling everything that I could. And I want to just say this too. I'm a very intuitive person. Like, you still need to just go with your gut. There's a lot of information out there. Even me as a person speaking to you, like, you need to do what is best for you and what feels good for your body. So don't just consume everything and take it at face value. Really just like read everything and just see what speaks to you and your birth and the labor that you want to have. So obviously a lot of the beginning was like Googling what you can and cannot eat, what you should and shouldn't do, like all of that stuff. I didn't realize all of this different things about medication. You really can't take medication for pain when you're pregnant. I believe Tylenol is like one of the only pain medications you can take. I got COVID very early in my pregnancy, and I kind of just had to like get through it. So that kind of sucked. And I did not realize that when you're pregnant, you really can't take like any medication. Your doctors should also be providing you with information. So I got like a full packet, I believe at my first like 8-week appointment, with like all this information. So it was different hospitals near me. It was things like medications you could and couldn't take, foods you should and shouldn't eat, all of that. So definitely talk to your doctors in the beginning. They should be giving you a lot of this information like up front, so don't stress too much. And then I also just focused obviously on resting. The biggest symptoms I had in my first trimester really were like extreme fatigue. Like I was just trying to get through it in like December and January and February. I was like falling asleep at my desk at like work, and I'm very lucky that I work from home. But I really was just like resting, trying to take care of my body, like listening to what it needed. Then I would say I just tried to stay in a positive mindset, because obviously you just never know what's going to happen, especially with your first birth. There's a lot of scary things that you read out there. You know, might be afraid of miscarriage, like all these different things. But I really was just like focusing on being healthy. I had a really positive mindset about things. And then, like I said, I told my parents and my one like close friend. So I did have like somebody to talk to, and obviously my partner. So I tried to stay in a healthy, positive headspace. I did like kind of start thinking about like a gender reveal and how we wanted to do that, because you can find out your baby's gender at your 12 to 13 week range. You do all of your blood work and they can tell gender through blood work. So usually it's not confirmed until your 20-week appointment. That's when they can physically see gender on your ultrasound. So that I do not regret finding out gender, because we were just so freaking excited. But in my next pregnancy in the future, I will wait until the 20-week appointment to find out, because I feel like it will just be more of a surprise to like see it up on the screen. But we found out through the blood work very early on. So I kind of started planning a gender reveal. And then I just tracked my symptoms heavily. I have a whole notepad in my phone starting from when I thought I was pregnant. So it literally starts in mid-December when I started to get like pregnancy symptoms up until now. Every single week I've been tracking my symptoms and how it's changed. And it's just for me to look back on so I can remember like how much your body changes every single week. So I really loved that. And then, like I mentioned, I was reading the Bump and looking at the Bump app every week. Now moving on to the second trimester. So you're going to read a lot that, a lot of your first trimester is some of like the hardest times, because if you end up getting morning sickness can be really freaking rough. Like there's just so many different symptoms that can come with the first trimester. And again, luckily I did not have that. In the second trimester, you're supposed to feel like more like yourself. They say like that pregnancy glow can kind of happen in these weeks. And I believe it's like weeks 14 to 27 are your second trimester. This is true for me. I started to feel way better. I basically felt like myself. So I was able to focus like way more on work. I knew I would kind of like get a lot more done in my second trimester, because like physically I was starting to feel better. I started to show, I would say like I got a little bump around week 15, but my stomach started to pop between weeks like 19 and 20. I remember that's when I like noticeably started to have a bump. So my second trimester, that is when I started, I believe, the course with Dr. Nicole Rankings. I wanted to give myself like ample time to just like slowly take that. So I started that course and I started to think more about like labor and preparation for that. So I started listening to the podcasts more. And then I would say the second trimester came with a lot of relief, because once we had that big like 12-week appointment and had our 12-week ultrasound and everything is good, that's like usually when they say your percentage of miscarriage goes down drastically. So we started telling friends around week 12 to like 15. I did not share the news publicly until I believe like I was 16 weeks around, because I went to a music festival at week 15 and I still hadn't told like the world yet. But it was because we had done some genetic testing, which pretty much like anybody can do that. And I tested positive for a specific gene. So they also will then go test your partner. So my husband had to get genetic testing as well. And luckily we were not positive for the same gene, but I just wanted to wait till all those results came back, and they took forever for some reason. So again, it is completely up to your comfort level when you want to tell people. But I just remember in the second trimester, just like itching out of my skin to tell people what was going on, especially at work, because I was like, you guys have no idea why I've been like so tired and quiet for all these winter months, but there is a reason. So anyways, I ended up, like I said, started telling friends and family around 12 weeks. And then I like posted on social media about 16 weeks in, which was comfortable for me personally. Then after that, we did have a gender reveal. We did it very, very early. Again, next time I would probably wait until like after 20 weeks, but we did the gender reveal at like 13 or 14 weeks because we found out through the blood work. Second trimester, I heavily started focusing on my physical activity. This is something that was very important to me personally because I am very active. I do a lot of workouts. I like to lift weights. I do my Peloton. So it was important to me to continue that through my pregnancy because I did want to have an easier labor and I want to be able to recover faster afterwards. Not everyone is that way. Your body might literally just not be responding to that at all. And like resting is just something that's important for you. So you just have to listen to your own body. But I started doing yoga. So I've fully taken advantage of the Peloton app, which I never had before. I was literally just using my bike and I was doing like boot camp workouts, but now I've done the strength training. They have a bunch of prenatal strength, all of the prenatal yoga classes. I've taken like a million of them, stretching, and then daily walks. I walk my dog like 4 times a day, something like that. So I've had like a lot of activity, which I think has been good, but just stretching, doing yoga, all of that in the second trimester. I just wanted to start it early so that, again, hopefully I have an easier labor. Then after that, I would say if you want to do a baby moon or something like that, your second trimester is probably a great time to plan that in because, again, you might be feeling better. It's a better time to travel for your body before you get too big. So we did go on a baby moon with our family to Greece, which was absolutely amazing. And that was the last week of my second trimester. So I kind of like pushed it to the end, but it was incredible. And I highly recommend having that time with like you and your partner. We actually did our maternity shoot in Greece as well, which was absolutely freaking beautiful. And I'm so glad that we did that because we're going to always have those memories to look back on. And then the last few things I did during my second trimester, I found our pediatrician. So that, again, I have like my to-do list for my pregnancy and I just wanted to start getting ahead because I knew once this third trimester hit, it's going to be like so much preparation for baby and postpartum and everything. So I started researching pediatricians. We found the pediatrician we're going to go with. So we kind of locked that in. And then lastly, I would say focusing on self-care. Throughout this pregnancy, I have leaned in on taking care of myself and doing things that make me feel good. So getting prenatal massages is like a guilty pleasure for me. I've done them almost like once a month. Prenatal massages are my guilty pleasure. And then I've gotten my nails done a couple times. So like manicures, pedicures. I don't usually do that like ever, but that just felt really good to me during this pregnancy. I was like, I'm taking care of myself and I'm pampering myself because we freaking deserve it. So that was my second trimester. Now getting into the third trimester, which again, I'm only 1 week into the third trimester so far at 29 weeks. But now my mindset has like fully shifted because I am fully focused right now on labor, preparing for a newborn, and postpartum. So before it was a lot of just like education and preparation for birth. And now I'm like fully focused on like baby is almost here. Got to get our shit together. What is our birth plan? Like all of these things. And then what do we need to know about having a newborn? And what are some of the things we need to start preparing for the fall when baby is here? Okay, so now getting to the third trimester, I got to wrap this up because I'm getting out of breath. It's like much harder to film now, but I did want to just say a quick disclaimer again, just because this is the order of that I did things in does not mean you need to like panic and be like, oh my God, I got to do all these things and get all these things done. Like, no, you are doing fine. You're doing great. Like you can do these in any order that you want. I'm just saying this is how I've, as a type A person who has OCD, like this is how I've planned things to like really take my time and just like slowly but surely prepare. So I didn't save everything for the third trimester and then like freak out that I had 10 weeks to get it done. So that's kind of like why I've spread this out the way I've spread it out. And I also just figured, not knowing what to expect in my third trimester, you never know if your baby's going to come early. So I was like, let me just get as much done as I can in the second. So the third, I can focus on like nesting and being a mom and getting in a good headspace. So for the third trimester right now, a lot of what I am focusing on right now is baby shower planning. So I did start that In the second trimester, we booked the restaurant in the second just to give us time. But like this whole weekend, I spent time designing some of the games and the signage, and we're picking out like favors and doing all that fun stuff. My shower is in July, so it's a couple weeks before I'm due. It's probably pushing it a little close, but that's fine. So yeah, baby shower planning is kind of what's happening right now. We just started our nursery. You can start your nursery whenever the F you want. If you want to start that in the second trimester, more power to you. We just are converting our guest bedroom to a nursery, and we needed to use the guest bedroom for Memorial Day weekend. So we just painted it this past weekend. Furniture and gifts are starting to arrive, so it is very real. But starting the nursery and nesting is what we're doing right now and focusing on that. So that is very exciting. Interviewing daycares, I just began that process. Again, my thought process behind that was just, it's going to get harder as we get closer to baby coming. And then once baby is here, I'm just going to be focused on, taking care of him and breastfeeding. And I'm not going to have time to like interview daycares and go do tours of them. So I was like, let's do that now so that we have daycares and stuff figured out, because once my maternity leave is up and my husband's paternity leave is up, we do want to go with a full-time daycare, just so that we can obviously both go back to work. So I'm starting that process now. And then right now I've kind of switched. So now that I finished the Dr. Nicole Rankings birth preparation course, I'm going to take a breastfeeding course and a newborn care course. So like I mentioned, Bridget Taylor is a YouTuber who had some information, but there's so many people you can find on Instagram who are lactation consultants. Your local hospital will probably help you with that as well. You should have a lactation consultant when you give birth. But you can also like book in-person classes for that, or you can have someone come to your house. Totally depends. You can also just, again, watch things on YouTube as well. There's so many resources out there. Our pediatrician's office as well is offering free newborn classes. So we're doing that as well. So there's so many ways you can go about it. Again, check through your own primary care provider, your own OBGYN, the pediatrician you use. They might all offer these types of classes. So you don't just have to go with people you find online. It's whatever you want to do. But that's the mode I'm in. I'm now in, okay, we need to learn how we're going to breastfeed or bottle feed or do formula. We're trying to figure that out. And then I don't have any experience with newborns. So I'm like, okay, baby's going to be here. What the fuck do we do? So that's where I'm at. And then lastly, the physical prep. I haven't gotten there quite yet. From the research I've done, like probably 32 weeks to 35 weeks and on is when I'm going to start doing this. But I bought my birth ball so I can start like bouncing on the birth ball and getting baby in the right position for labor. I know eating dates is something that apparently can prepare, I think it's like your vaginal wall or something like that. It basically prepares you down there, and it's supposed to help with an easier labor. So starting to eat dates, I'm going to throw them in my smoothies probably at like 34 weeks and on, and I'm going to do that daily, but definitely do more research on dates if that's something you guys are interested in. And then stretching and yoga, like those two things are very important to me these next few weeks. I just want to make sure I'm stretching my hips, my pelvic floor, all of that. Pelvic floor therapy is a big thing for some people. If you're having a lot of pain, definitely look into pelvic floor therapy. I didn't need to do that because I don't have that many issues with my pelvic floor. But again, the physical prep for labor is where I'm at right now. And then coming up with my birth wishes, because you can't really plan for things. You have no idea how your labor and your birth of your child is going to go. So I'm very much going into it with like, whatever happens, happens. I have my wishes together, which I learned through Dr. Nicole Rankings' course. So that was very big to me. Again, I have friends who have said, like, I don't want to know. I just kind of like want to go in and trust the doctors. That is not something I'm comfortable with. I very much want to go in knowing my options, knowing what can happen. I do not want a C-section. Like, there's just certain things that are my personal wishes. And by educating myself, I'm going to be better able to communicate that and speak to it with my doctors. So yeah, I just feel like very prepared, and I have my wishes set for labor and things like that. But I am very much like flexible in knowing I will be taken care of and things will be okay. I will be healthy. My baby will be healthy, and that's all that matters. So anyway, you guys, this video is long enough, but it has been a beautiful blessing. There have been so many learnings, so many insights. I'm sure, I would love to have more babies in the future, and I'm sure I'll feel differently and have so many things to look back on and be like, you thought you knew everything. But that is how I have navigated my pregnancy so far. I'm just so excited. It's getting a little nerve-wracking, but I'm ready for baby to be here, and I'm excited to take these next few weeks now to put together the nursery, start nesting, celebrate with my friends and family, and just get ready for baby to be here. So it's very exciting. So yeah, that is where we're at. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Definitely stick around for part 2. I have all of my essential items spread out around my room, around me, and I'm going to show you guys what I've been loving throughout this pregnancy. So if you are not already subscribed, definitely hit the subscribe button down below so you do not miss out on part 2 of this video. I wish you all the best with your pregnancies. I'm sending all the love and positive thoughts your way. You are amazing, mama. You fucking got this. Wishing you guys the best. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.